Way back into the distant past, when he was like 15, he joined a mail-in movie club, 11 days for pennies. And now cut to 2025, the movie club caught on to Pete's lie. And now they want to punish him, so they trapped him in a room with a bunch of movie tapes. Pete didn't want to pay for the movies he got in the 90s. He'll have to watch random horror tapes and tell us about gore and probably some rape. Now keep in mind, Pete didn't pick. They use random numbers and a long list. He's got to get through every movie, one each day for the time we can't foresee. Helpful Snowman roll call. Anxiety. Grouchiness. Entropy. Snow. If you're wondering why he did this song and other FAQ facts, just shut up and listen to this show, or fuck it, take a nice nap. It's Helpful Snowman Podoween 2025. Okay, everybody. Holy shit. Today's movie is called Toxic Retards. The Toxic Retards. This was a true test of my mettle. I'm glad it came up as late as it has in this whole thing, because if it had come up early, I don't know that I would have survived. Like, on the other hand, if this had been in the first few movies, maybe I would have smartened up and like focused on escaping this dungeon, stopped this madness instead of, thinking like, this isn't so bad. I cannot tell you the plot of this movie because I don't think it has one, or if it does, it's so obtuse as to be completely obscured and not in it's interpretive. It's whatever you think it means kind of way. More like it's like looking into a pile of shit and deriving meaning. Like, is that possible? Sure. Is that a reasonable task for some asshole who's just podcasting about horror movies this month? Like, not really. So I'll talk about this movie as a series of things that happened on a screen. Like, let's do it in buckets. Bucket one, I'm going to say, is naked ladies laying around, sitting on a bed, sometimes being killed, sometimes kind of dancing around. Some of these sequences include incredibly close zooms on like one breast that linger way too long. Being fair to this movie, literally every element of this movie goes like 5 times as long as it should. So it's hard to attribute this to perversion completely. It could just be, it does match everything else. You know what I mean? We see other things for 5 times too long that are just boring or like whatever. So I don't know. I don't know if that's a choice or a thing that happened. Bucket 2 is going to be some guy saying the same thing over and over. So, it's like listening to this podcast. It'll just be a medium shot with a guy sitting at a table or standing in a room saying different lines that express the same thing over and over. I call to you, my master, I call to you. I'm calling you, my master. It's to you I call. And, you get the idea. One particular sequence also has this guy who's saying the thing over and over, stripped down to complete nudity for no apparent reason. But I was like, well, at least there's parity between the male and female nudity. That's something.
Got my knife. I'm going to eat his liver. God of voodoo, give power to the black scorpion. Give power to the black scorpion. God of voodoo, 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 God of voodoo. Give me power, give me power, give me power. Thank you, God of voodoo. 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 Thank you, God of Voodoo, for giving us the power to destroy Carl Sakenic's sister Jackie. His first girlfriend, Beth. Hi, 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 hi. Destroying his sister personally was a great satisfaction for me, God of Voodoo. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for giving us the power to destroy Lance Marshall, his friend. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Bucket 3 is what I'm going to call gore sequences. That's what they appeared to be to me. Mostly you can't tell what's going on. There's one where maybe someone's eating a brain or like, I don't know, disassembling a corpse or something. It's super close and zoomed in and it has just sort of squish noises. There's one where a head explodes. Okay, so it's clearly a dummy head with a pretty dry explosion. And this is preceded by a shot of a guy we've never seen before who's clearly indoors with a red filter shooting a gun, which does have empty shells like eject out of the side, but there are no sound effects to the shooting. So that's the only way I knew he was actually shooting. And then we cut to outside. It's daytime and there's a dummy with no red filter. Its head explodes. So I think what's indicated is that this guy blew a head off of somebody that represented by this dummy. Bucket 4 is incredibly long shots of someone doing something like entering a room, exiting a room, walking around the outside of a house, sitting at a table, basically doing some kind of business, but not even business, just a chore, a movement from one place to another. And the last bucket is bucket 5, and I'm going to just call this random. Stuff like some sort of plot about a magic healing ray that only works if you're on a specific diet, which does kind of sound like a lot of reels that you see on TikTok these days. Maybe like red light therapy or something. And then there's an ending where some people jump around and are saying things like, we did it, we defeated the aliens, which I guess is what was happening in this movie. We were defeating aliens. There are many, many points in the movie where you can hear the filmmaker directing the actors. There's a lot of cuts. It seems like this was filmed on a VHS tape that already had stuff on it. So, you know, you're seeing like weird artifacts from other things that were filmed. And sometimes it's hard to even tell whether I'm seeing an artifact from another movie or if I'm seeing an artifact or if this is what it's supposed to be. Oh, Christ. Okay. There's music in this movie. It's about a 9-second droning loop. And it did have a spooky-ish charm that I appreciated. It kind of grew on me, but then you hear it for like 10 minutes straight, which means you hear it. Okay, if you hear it for 10 minutes straight, you hear it 66.6 times in a row, which I did not do on purpose. But anyway, it's pretty annoying. I did find this movie mildly creepy. Not because of like what I was seeing on the screen, but more because I wanted to A, look at a missing persons database and see if any of the women who appeared are presumed dead, and B, get out of this movie. You know, it's like this podcast sometimes where it's an uncomfortable trip through a person's mind. But again, not like he's twisted and awesome, you know, it's like he's like, I don't understand how this is even a movie. You know, like, how do you watch this? How do you make this? And then you watch the tape and you're like, yes, that's what I wanted on the screen. Like, how do you look at this and you're like, this is the exact visual representation of what I wanted? Which I may have an answer for. I did a little research, and it turns out the writer, director, producer, Carl J. Sukanik, is legitimately schizophrenic. I don't know if that's a term we use anymore, but that's what I found, how it was described. And I did find a description for this movie, and it goes like this. Aliens battle terrorists in a sorority house filled with mutants, monsters, and secret agents. Who will survive this action-packed interdimensional adventure? Which I'm sure. Fine. Yep. I also found out that this movie was a recutting of a previous movie called Alien Beasts, which has this summary. Special CIA unit must deal with humans who mutated into beasts after being exposed to alien radiation and evil terrorists who attack the CIA base. So I'm starting to notice a pattern here. And here's what someone named Jack Abram said on IMDb. The Toxic Retards is truly a unique film. While some may criticize it for its lack of any sort of production value, gratuitous nudity, and complete absence of any sort of narrative, these are the film's main strengths. The Toxic Retards creates a truly unsettling aesthetic throughout the entire experience of viewing it, from acquiring it from an obscure website to finding a functional VHS player to view it, to actually seeing the truly bizarre montage of scenes Carl J. Sukanik has created. These factors combine to create a truly unique audio-visual experience straight from the mind of Carl J. Sukanik. I love this line. It's like, some may criticize this movie for, well, basically not being a movie. Yeah, some. I'm going to read to you now from, there's a website called brightlightsfilm.com. And there's an article about the video diaries of George Kuchar and Carl J. Sukanik. So I talked a little bit about George Kuchar, but I'm not going to read that. And just start right with Carl Sukanik. Carl Sukanik has had no special opportunities afforded to him, no opportune timing or presence at the crest of a cinematic movement, no ready-made audience save the adventurous devotees of fanzine mail-order ads, and even more importantly, none of the economic means to consistently realize his visions on a level beyond his own property. Yeah, that tracks. For a fan filmmaker like Carl, the home video camcorder was the most accessible opportunity for creative expression and confession that could exist. Announcing his arrival via the back pages of Fangoria, as well as larger ads in Film Threat Video Guide and other underground publications, Carl stood apart from the gallery of post-cinema of transgression provocateurs and faceless splatter filmmakers of the day. This is when it's like, are we getting too academic on this? You know what I mean? I'm like, I don't know. Is this okay? Let me come back to that. Debuting with 1991's Mutant Massacre and following in rapid succession with Mutant Massacre 2 and Alien Beasts, all ostensibly re-edits of the same 2 hours of footage, Carl attracted notice for the incomprehensibility and ludicrous content of his tapes. These 3 early features feature an invasion of mutant/alien/Iranian spies into suburbia, centered on a military base that is unashamedly Carl's family home. Over each tape's 70-minute runtime, there are endless scenes of horribly choreographed fights in the front and backyards, minutes-long profile shots of the everyman cast members, and plenty of footage of Carl smoking cigarettes and yelling at his camera to provide narrative context. I actually really like that. There are also a handful of men in mutant/alien masks. I'm providing you context now. There are also a handful of men in mutant/alien masks wandering the suburbs and attacking people, as well as an impressive Super 8 stop-motion animation climax wherein Carl dismantles an alien attacker to save the day. These are ostensibly narrative features as much as they deviate from all conventions of traditional filmmaking. By this virtue alone, there's a compelling case to be made for their status as avant-garde, or at least outsider art. See, here we go. There's no indication that Carl has ever stopped making videos, and likely no possibility of even tracing just how many products he has unleashed over the years due to his relentless prolificacy and the micro run of so many tapes. Following the death of his mother and his relocation to a care facility, Carl's focus has shifted from the backyard sci-fi narratives of the 1990s to a more restrained and personal, if no less singular form. Filming his friends and the other residents of the home, Carl's work since 2000 or so has shifted to a blend of sci-fi horror aesthetics and confessional diaries that bear an incredible resemblance to George Kachar's own video work. There still remain the traces of his early narrative preoccupations, a variety of monster masks, non-acting victims being unconvincingly strangled by creatures, half-developed conspiracy plots to explain the strange occurrences. But with the reduction of scale and opportunity, the focus often shifts to Carl himself and his life in the moment of production. Later tapes such as Kill Room Volume 1, LSD Killer, and Space Psychos often devote more screen time to Carl sitting on his bed, smoking cigarettes, and recounting his daily habits. There are discussions with his girlfriend about going out to buy candy, confessions of grief surrounding his mother's death, and, briefly, honest revelations of his struggles with mental illness. Just as with George's own blend of profound realizations and crude bodily functions, Carl is also likely to film himself masturbating or clipping his toenails as much as he cries over his lost loved ones. The frantic nature of these later confessionals, remarkable due to the languid pacing and almost entirely static camera work, is unnerving in a way that George's diaries often are. We see firsthand how he ages over the years, how his surroundings and personal life deteriorate, all due to his unwavering willingness to share every piece of his life. Carl offers little outright profundity and seems to be doing so unintentionally at times, but there's still an undeniable sadness in his circumstances. The fact that he was never afforded the opportunity to make the mark he desired, yet took whatever means were at his disposal and put himself out into the world via video to communicate and express himself. That makes the triumph of his marginal success all the more inspiring. So there you go. My opinion, I mean, the person makes some relevant points, right? It is sad. It is sad to see somebody of limited means, trying to make that sort of stuff work. And it's fucking hard to do, especially if you are super of limited means. Yeah, I can't imagine that's easy. And there is something to it, right? Like watching someone like that age on camera, and you're just like, it's not the same as like, I don't know. You watch like the newest Final Destination and you're like, oh, Tony Todd, this is his last thing. Because you're like, I mean, Tony Todd did it. Like he was Candyman. He was great. We love him. He made a mark in the world. And you're like, this guy, I don't know, man. So I get that. But at the same time, I would be incredibly curious if by chance there is like a wildly rich person listening to this podcast. I want nothing more than someone like Carl J. Sukanik to be given a huge budget to make a movie. You know what I mean? Just like basically an Avengers level budget to make whatever he wants, and to, you can hire people to make things look as he envisions them. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just wonder if he's off the chain, what does that look like? So this movie is utter madness. And it's kind of like the final boss of bad movies, in my opinion. Like, you have The Room or A Fateful Findings. That's one thing. But this is like, I mean, I would enjoy screening this for Neil Breen to get his thoughts. It'd be fascinating. Like, I wonder if he'd be like, my God, this is what people think of when they watch my movies. This is what it's like. I'm going to rate this movie based on how many pages of the DSM would probably be relevant to understanding it. And I see that that's listed at 991 pages. So I'm putting the number for Toxic Retards at a solid 700.
It's helpful, Snowman, Podoween 2025.